There we go. Can you guys hear me now? New mic. I got a new mic because my other one was not moving well from one location to another, so I needed two. So, okay, let's start over again. I'm probably just going to edit that whole thing out once this live stream is done processing. So, let's start over again. This is being done on, let's see, I'm going to wait until I'm sure you guys can hear me because I just fixed. You should be able to now. I've got some yeses and still people saying no audio. Sound but static. Huh. Let me see. Settings, let me know if it starts to get better. I'm going to see if possibly it's not using the correct mic. No, it's set up to use the right one. There's still a weird buzz. Okay, I'm gonna wait and see if the buzz is any better. Oh, fixed. Okay. Well, since I just changed something, I'm gonna hold off again and make sure that it's better. Buzzing is back. It's still buzzing. Well, crap. I have no idea why or how to fix this. Better but quiet. I can hear you, but now there is buzzing. Plug and unplug. Okay. You know what? I'm actually going to change out. Hold on. If I can find it. Let's change the cable. This is a different mic than what I had before. I'm spilling water all over the place. Maybe that'll make a difference. I moved it, it stopped, and it's back. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm going to try something. Hold on. Okay, let me know if it's going to be any better. It's plugged back in. Well, it may have stopped buzzing because I unplugged it. Now that it's plugged back in and I'm talking, if you guys can let me know if it's still working. Yeah, it stopped because I turned it off. I need to know if it's still buzzing while talking. We're just going to sit here until we figure all of this out. And it's still buzzing, just go with it, buzzing and all. I don't know if there's electrical interference. It's set up how it always is. I don't know how I would fix that. This is a new mic though. It may, no, there's no cell phone anywhere near it. It's, okay, I'm gonna switch to the old mic. So give me just a couple minutes. Okay, I am back sitting down. If you guys can let me know if it's still doing it or not, I may just need to exchange that mic. And this is messed up now. We're just all kinds of a mess tonight. Let's see. Zahara is saying all good now. It's gone. Okay, so that mic just needs to be returned. I'm going to go with defective. I got another mic that's just like the first one, and it just came today, so I could have one at my desk, one over here at the easel, and apparently it's not going. That one needs to be returned. So, yay! I love returning stuff. Okay, now let's go ahead and get started. I will just edit this whole chunk of 10 minutes of nothing out of the video, and we will start here later on. Once it's done processing. So what I'm working on today is a Frederick's watercolor canvas board. Just to start off, this video is not sponsored by anybody. These are just the supplies that I like. I'm going with the watercolor canvas board, and it's an 8x10. The reason that I'm going with this one, 8x10, I can paint this fairly quickly, and we want to get this done in 2 hours. 2, the watercolor canvas boards are extremely, extremely smooth. So blending is going to be way easier than on something that has a bit more tooth. So, plus, I think it's the only kind of canvas I have here right now that's an 8x10. So we are going with that. I've got Liquitex Basics acrylic paints. Here is the palette that I have set up. I've got Mars Black, Phthalo Blue, some kind of magenta, yellow, orange, red, and white. And as far as which red, which yellow, it really doesn't matter. It's not something that I would stress myself out over, making sure you have the exact same one. Okay, so let's go. I need a filbert. I'm going to start by layering in my sky. We're going to start with the sunset. And I'm going to use a Taklon bristled filbert. This one actually came in my Smart Art box. This is a Royal Langnickel. I hope I'm saying that right. But this actually, no, maybe I bought this one at Michael's. I don't know where this one came from, but it's actually a really nice brush. I have my handy paper towels here, which are a necessity. And what I'm mixing my paint with is water as usual. It's definitely my preferred way to blend. I like it better than pretty much all mixing mediums. There are rare cases where I like using mixing mediums, but for today, that's not going to be the case. I'm going to start by mixing a little bit of yellow and white together. There's a little bit of water on the brush, not enough that it's dripping or anything like that. I just need enough that it flows smoothly. So I'm going to make my water come to, we'll say about here. And I'm just going to paint in the yellow. Add a little bit more white to that. Now, if you start getting bumps, you probably can't see that on this video right now with this being so light, but where I've got bumps of the white canvas showing through, that tells me I need more water and more paint on my brush. One or the other, sometimes both. But basically, that's what we call dry brushing, and it's not cute. I'm going to switch now and start adding some orange. And I'm going to pull the orange down here. And here I'm starting to get those dots again. So again, that lets me know I need more paint and water on the brush. Now, I want to make sure when I paint a sky, and this may seem like common sense, but I've seen a lot of people do this where they'll start painting the sky vertically. They're trying to, smooth things out and they'll start going this way. Don't do that. If I have streaks, I want to make sure they're horizontal so it just looks like a cloud. Make sure, just keep your brush strokes horizontal. Dingus says, I want to use wood panels with, actually, yeah, I can move that a little. I want to use wood panels with acrylics, but I don't know what to use without using my entire life savings. There's something from a hardware store archival. The problem with the stuff at the hardware store, and I know plenty of artists who do work with stuff from hardware stores. The thing is, you need to do your research and find out if it's been treated with anything. A lot of those, the different wood have, or different types of wood have things that they've been treated with that do not make them archival. They are not acid free. You need to find out. And most people who work at hardware stores do not have a clue. The ones I've asked never knew. So I don't do it. I'm not chancing putting that much work into something. Whoops. And I hit the camera. Putting that much work into something that ends up getting really messed up. So it's not something that I personally recommend doing, but I do know of artists who do. You just, again, you have to do your research. No, the baby chicken, I do not have co-hosting. He is in his cage tonight. He actually could be in here with the acrylic painting. Now, there's no fumes. This wouldn't hurt him. But he's a bit of a pain, and he doesn't want to hold still, and half the video would be me chasing him down because he got bored. We're having a hard time getting him to stay on a perch or stay on his cage. He always wants to be with us, which is adorable, and we're probably making it worse because, I mean, how do you say no to that? It's so cute. But yeah, it's going to be really hard to, my thing keeps sliding down. Hold on one second. Thanks, Kaneho. He reminded me to turn the camera on, which I had not done. We're going to readjust that just a bit. Okay, there we go. So yes, I am recording. This one doesn't technically need to be recorded because I'm painting the whole thing tonight just for the live stream. It won't be a separate video, but just in case, you guys are right. I should have that camera on. Okay. So I'm moving up to my red colors, and actually I want to pull that down quite a bit more. I'm going to start switching. So I've started with yellow and white into orange, now to red, and I'm going to start pulling the magenta color down to the orange, starting from here, and I'm going to start pulling that down. And again, I want to make sure that my lines are horizontal so it just looks like clouds. There we go. Okay, did the live stream just stop on you guys? Are we still going? There we go. Okay. Wow, I've not had that happen. OBS crashed, the editor I use. Crazy. But anyway, one of two things that I can do to blend this. One is to airbrush, to take a little bit of paint with water, a little bit of water in my airbrush. And you can do this with a hobby kit. All I'm going to do is mist water to keep it wet. And there's no paint in there, just water. And that keeps it wet, so I can keep this wet for hours if I need to. And then I can take a brush, a soft mop brush, and just fan that out. And look how nice and soft that gets. So that's one way to blend. The other, if you do not have an airbrush, you can just add a little bit more water as you're working and then keep blending that way. So I am going to rinse the water from my brush. Now, one of the nice things about blending with these colors before you hit up into the blues and purples is that if I start with just blue down to yellow, I'm going to get green as the transition between, and that is really not what I want. So by adding a bit of magenta first, it's going to let me transition without green. So we'll come up into the blue. Now I'll be putting clouds over this, but I need to get a base first. I'm going to take some magenta now and just go right in between. And that magenta mixed in with the phthalo blue will turn into purple for me. Now I'm going to rinse my brush because I want to blend this down here a little bit more. And if I just blend the blue into that, I'm going to get this really muddy color. So by rinsing the brush and pulling magenta, I can then just get this to blend smoother without having too much of that mud. And then I'm just going to fan that out. Now see how I'm getting streaks here? I've got an area that too much paint got picked up on my mop brush, so it's creating streaks instead of getting rid of them. So I need to pick up a clean mop brush, which is really a makeup blush brush or powder brush. And we're just going to blend that out. And there is going to be my base. Now I am going to go on top of that with clouds. I will add some stars first. JPC13 Art wants to know how I use that airbrush without the compressor being so loud. You should have heard it. It's not a loud airbrush or air compressor. And for some reason, this is just freezing up like crazy tonight, and I apologize that. I see that that's happening a lot. So I'm sorry. Chris Stevens says, if you have any questions about your bird, I'm a bird breeder, so feel free to ask. Something that people don't know, I'm kind of like the bird whisperer. My parents, I grew up breeding birds and hand feeding them, and that's like my thing. I was actually the bird specialist, whatever, at several pet stores I worked at. But I can tame pretty much anything. Like I've had people hire me to come to their homes just to tame their birds so that they could handle them. No, I actually, that is one thing I have definitely a lot of experience with. Thank you for the offer though. Going back, looking at your questions. 1911 says, I have some Liquitex basics and I'm new to acrylics. I could draw, but I don't know where to start with acrylics. I know the basics about them, but I can't paint anything that looks right. That's because you're new. Acrylics are one of the more difficult mediums, I think, to really get used to. Don't overthink it. Don't worry too much that it doesn't look good just yet. It's not going to when you start painting. What you start painting with is probably going to look terrible, and that's okay. Give yourself permission to make an absolute mess, to make some really ugly things, and the more you paint, the more you learn, and you're going to start getting better. Watch tutorials. There's so many tutorials. I mean, I've got a ton. Other artists have a ton. Watch a bunch of tutorials, and you can kind of follow along with that to get the hang of them. But really, it comes back again because this is just disconnecting constantly, and I don't know why. And I apologize. My computer is being a jerk tonight. Let's see. And we're back. I have a feeling that that's just going to keep happening. That's the second time the program I'm using keeps disconnecting. It's not even YouTube's fault, so I'm not sure what's going on with that tonight, so I apologize. Refresh F5 is not going to work for me because it's actually the Studio, the program that I use. It's a separate program. So I apologize for that. What was I even talking about? Oh, the mixing mediums, the extenders. I would recommend get used to blending just fast. Most acrylic artists will tell you they just blend fast. And of course you can use the airbrush. You can get cheap hobby kit airbrushes, single action for like $35 in a little can of air just to mist water. That's what I started with. So don't feel like you have to spend an arm and a leg in order to get a full airbrush setup. Just for spraying water, single action, $35, $30 kit is enough. HeJ19 wants to know how many hobbies I have. A lot. Gosh, I used to show my dogs, Studio Assistants 1 and 2, I showed my dogs. Anything to do with animals. I just love animals, so lots to do with that. I guess you could count photography because I've been taking a lot of photos lately. I used to crochet. I like to make things, anything I can make. Krista says, do you have any advice for me? Having art displayed in a gallery and I need advice on how to talk to random people interested in pieces. It will be my first time to do this. I'm a junior in high school. Be nice. And just talk to them. I mean, this is how you build experience. I don't really have advice for you. You just need to go experience it and see how that's going to be. I'm going to blend down to my water now if I can find my paintbrush I was using. I lost it there we go. So, I mean, you're going to just go and talk to people. And it's easy for me to say, oh, don't be nervous. That's going to come with time. You're going to be nervous, and that's okay. The more you do this and the more that you do art shows, it will just become just another day. It won't be so scary to you anymore. So I'm going to start with the water before I start with the clouds. I'm just going to basically blend the opposite of what I did and pull that down. So I'm going to go a little bit darker. So I've got the orange. Now look at how the edges are fading into the orange here. That makes it so that I don't have to have a straight line. It's just an easy way to cheat without having to like get the tape out and make sure it's perfectly straight. I'm just going to let that fade up. Mara wants to know if I'm going to darken that blue a bit. No, I am not. Moonstone wants to know if I have ever been interested in other art form styles such as anime, manga. If not, have you ever tried it out? No, not really. I've always really liked realism. I mean, I've tried things, impressionism, mixing abstract with realism, that sort of thing. But manga and that sort, it has never been anything that I appreciate what other people do with it, but it's not something that that ever intrigued me enough to want to do myself. So I'm going to start pulling the reds in here. And then we'll go down into the magentas because I do want this water to be, I don't want it to be quite as bright as the sky. So I'm going to darken it up a lot quicker than I did the sky. Mara wants to know if magenta is supposed to be a pinkish hue or a purple. I consider it a purple, like something in between it, red and purple. I mean, if you look on the color wheel, that's basically where it falls, somewhere between the two. So I'm going to pull the blue down now. Blend the two up. Need to get a bit more paint. You can see how it's very translucent. That's happening for two reasons. One, the amount of white I had on my brush. Two, the amount of water. The more water you use, the more translucent your paint is going to be. So I need a little bit more paint there. Make sure I go down to my edge. And this is the same as the sky. I want to make sure that my brush strokes are all horizontal so that if I do have brush strokes showing, it just looks like ripples in the water. I am using a huge mixture of different types of brushes. Most of them are Taklon bristle though. I've got filberts and flats. The brands, I don't really care about brands when it comes to paintbrushes like I do with my other art materials. With paintbrushes, I've always been pretty happy with whatever. I mean, I've got a lot of generic Hobby Lobby paintbrushes. I have some that are name brand. I don't really notice that big of a difference between any of the name brand brushes I've ever used and the ones that are generic. So yeah. Sarah wants to know if I have any New Year's resolutions regarding artwork. No, I've never been huge on making New Year's resolutions. I mean, sometimes I will set different goals, but that's just goals in general. I do that throughout the year anyway. Lately, my goal, and again, I can't say that has anything to do with New Year's so much. Well, kind of, I guess. I went through and had to sort through my taxes and all of my expenses. And that was painful last night and took hours. And so I'd really like to keep up on that throughout the year this time instead of waiting and doing it all at once. But other than that, no, I don't really have anything specific that I'm make more art, basically. So what I'm doing now, see how this is very rough? I want to blend these together. So what I've done, just rinse that brush out. I'm going to wipe most of the water off the brush. And then what little is left on, I can use to blend this out. And I can do that a couple of times. That's starting to streak. So I'm going to rinse that brush again, wipe most of that water off, and then just pull that out. And this is where learning to paint fast is really helpful because this hasn't dried yet and it makes it very easy. Chloe wants to know how one can build an art business and get a customer base. That's not really an easy thing to answer. I mean, it would need its whole own 2-hour video. But start producing artwork and start posting on different social media platforms. I mean, it's a really good way to start. But I've got so many videos. That's not something I can easily... I mean, I can give you tips here and there, but it's not something that's that easy to answer. It's anytime you get into business and marketing, there's no one thing that is going to work. It's going to be a combination of 80 different things. I mean, just tons and tons of different things that you have to do in order to build up that business. So, like I said, there's not one. Whoops, I had a little bit of orange there. Let's reload that with white. there's no like great tip I can give you other than to start sharing and start posting and create more work. One of the big mistakes that I see a lot of artists make, they think they can produce one new piece of art every couple of months, and that usually is going to make it very hard for you to get very far. It's hard to stay relevant when you're not constantly producing work. So it can happen. I mean, there are cases where people build up a base like that, but I think it makes it a lot harder. Just be painting and drawing all the time. It's not a situation where you'll make one perfect painting and you're just going to be able to make a living off that one amazing thing. So keeping relevant is a big deal, and that comes down to producing lots of work. Okay, so there is my base, and now I am going to start painting clouds. So for these clouds, I basically want to use these same colors throughout the entire painting. Actually, I think I want a few stars first. So let's take a stiff brush with a little bit of water and white, and we'll just flick some of those up top. Done. Okay, so now we will do clouds. The stars have to go behind clouds, and that's a mistake that I've seen people make before, where they'll paint clouds and then they'll put the stars in front of the clouds. That doesn't make sense. The stars are very, very far away. The clouds are up close, so make sure the stars go first. Okay, I'm going to switch to, this is another Taklon bristled filbert. This is the generic Hobby Lobby Master's Touch brush, a number, what is this, number 4. Now I'm going with the filbert because it's going to be much easier for me to keep this sort of poofy shape with the clouds. And what color do I want to start with? I basically just need a muddy, we'll start with a muddier orange. I'm going to mix some orange with a little bit of magenta and some yellow, and this is going to create a very natural kind of browny orange color. And this will be the start of my clouds. So this is my waterline here, which apparently I've put right in the middle of the canvas for some reason. If I were to redo this, I'd probably drop the waterline down a little bit. I don't know what I was thinking there. Actually, whatever, it's fine for now. So we are going to just start making these little half poofy circles. I'm going to have some get a little bit more streaky as I work my way down, and I'm going to take a separate brush that's a little bit damp. I've dipped it in the water, but then I wiped as much of the water off as I could get, and I'm going to soften that out. Oops, apparently I need a little bit more water. This brush, I think, is dirty. Oops. And I'm just softening those edges. Now I need to get a little bit darker still as I move my way out. So I'm starting with the dark. I'm going to come back through and add highlights to these later. But we will just block those in. Going to take my mop brush and soften the inner sections, but I need to use the stiff brush because I'm blending wet into dry. I need to use a clean stiff brush just to soften that out. Then again, the mop brush is only being used for the wet parts that are blending with the wet. Otherwise, if it's wet up against dry paint, I need to switch to the stiff round brush. Just soften those a little bit. The big thing here, don't over blend. I only need a couple of brush strokes to smudge my edges. I don't need to blend and blend and blend. If I keep blending with these brushes, what ends up happening is I push all of the paint to the outer edge and I end up with a ring where it's light in the center because I pushed all the paint away, and then dark, that ring around the outside edge. All I'm doing is softening my edges. Chris Stevens wants to know if I've used sea sponges in my art. Yes, I have. Actually, I think I used it when I did the Galaxy live stream recently. I've used them for, usually it's done for sea foam and stuff like that when I use them. I don't use them too often though. They're kind of a pain to clean. Not that big of a pain. I'm just lazy is what I should say. Paintbrushes are much easier. I'm going to darken this up a bit now. And add a touch of black to muddy this up more because I'm working into the darker areas. And again, just smudging the outer edges. Now the color that I'm using, because I've mixed black in with it, it's just kind of this muddy, dark, almost a plum color. Again, just smudging those edges. And you can put as much as you want with the clouds. A few, a lot, it really doesn't matter. That is going to be completely up to you. And I'm going to give the hint of clouds down here, just some darker areas. Just smudge them out a little so it's not too perfectly smooth. Actually, I'll probably end up putting water ripples. I changed my mind. I'm not going to worry too much about the bottom. I'll do water ripples later. Okay, now I've got to start getting some highlights. So I'm going to take a bit of white, a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to come on the underside of these. Now, if I want to make them more peach or different colors, I can come back and easily do that later. Now this works, again, that brush I can blend up and make that soft as long as what's already there wet. Here where it's starting to dry, this brush really wouldn't work very well. Just doing little half circles. And I'll do this in a few layers. I'm going to end up with really bright highlights later on. Little half circles. I'm not just doing straight lines. It's almost little dabs of kind of smiley and sideways smiley faces, so they stay nice and poofy. There's a bit of purple still on my brush from the previous cloud, and that is totally fine. I'm just going to let that work into this cloud. It's like I did extra detail without having to do the work, when really all it was I was lazy and didn't clean my brush. And this brush that I'm blending out with, I'm also doing little half circles, just little kind of half, almost dab circles. Making up words and terminology. Good luck understanding me. Those are not my dogs barking, by the way. I don't know if you guys are able to hear that. Just little bits here and there on the underside of where I painted those clouds to get the highlights. Now, one of the things I want to show you with the brush, I'm not putting the brush down still and going in circles. I'm doing these little half circles and pulling up, lifting the brush, half circle, pull away, half circle, pull away. If you just go in circles and scrub all over, you will make a terrible mess. And this brush, again, this one here is a little bit damp, not like soaking wet. You kind of have to play around with how much water is on your paintbrush this way, or mixing with your paint on this brush with how much is here. The more water you have mixed here, the less you want on this brush. And then the other way around. If this is very wet, you want this to be more dry. They have to balance each other out. And this is where I'm blending again, this is wet over dry. Ronnie says, hi Lisa, when you first started selling paintings, did you paint things you didn't, whoops, just scroll down, paint things you didn't want just to sell it, or did you mainly paint those things you were passionate about? Paint what you're passionate about. If you're not passionate about it, it shows in the finished product. Now, that's not to say that I haven't painted portraits that I wasn't super excited about, but I still did my best, and in those cases, I just kept reminding myself this is great practice so that I would be happier about having done certain things. But no, for the most part, you want to stick with things that you are passionate about. I mean, if you're not passionate about painting cars, don't paint cars. It's going to show, I think. That makes a big, big difference. You want to find buyers who are interested in the style that you're painting, not paint a style around an ideal, what you think ideal buyer. I see people quite often, they'll think, oh, landscapes sell well, Thomas Kinkade stuff sells well, so I need to paint Thomas Kinkade style. Well, here's the thing. First, there are 800 different people, well, more than that, painting Thomas Kinkade style. Good luck standing out in that crowd. Second of all, that's a specific crowd. I mean, that's not the only people who want art. He built a very big name for himself. His artwork was amazing, and he built that name for himself, and that's why that was selling. It's not that everybody all wants that style of painting. His work is amazing, but it's not the only style that's going to sell for you. So for me, when I started, I was passionate about marine life, and that's all I had any interest in painting. As time went on, I started becoming more interested in other things, and so I started painting other things as well, different wildlife. When I first started, I had no interest in painting portraits, so I didn't. And I do now, but I didn't back then. But the thing is, I wasn't going to force myself to do it just because I thought it would sell. And until I had interest in it, they wouldn't have looked very good at all. Actually, they didn't look very good when I started anyway, but you get the idea. Colin wants to know if I'm excited for the new Great Game of Thrones season. Of course. Kaneho's being nice and it's creeping me out. Those of you who are in live chat know what I'm talking about. Those of you watching after the fact are probably thinking, what the heck is she talking about? So there will be my hint of clouds. I don't need a lot, and you can go as far as you want. Lots of little ones, just a few big ones, does not matter. Actually, I do want to highlight a few of these a bit more, so I'll go a little bit stronger with the white and then pull those up. Now I have too much white. I have to darken that cloud back up. So now here's the thing, that so many people are so worried about messing up. I don't like how that cloud came out, so I'm going to fix it. No big deal. Don't stress yourself out about, oh my gosh, it was so much better before. I don't want to adjust anything because it might mess it up. You have to get over that idea. If you ever want to improve, you have to be willing to mess things up and then figure out how to fix them. Okay, so I am now going to take these darker colors and create some ripples in the water. And I probably won't go too far with these until I get the whale drawn in, because I don't know exactly where he's going. But these ripples, you want to keep them mostly horizontal. You don't want to be doing a lot of vertical lines. You can see they're long, horizontal, short diagonal, long, horizontal, short diagonal. That's basically what the movement is here. I'm barely pushing. With the same brush, I can get very, very thin lines or thick lines just based on how much pressure I add to the brush. I am barely letting that touch, and you can see I get those nice thin lines. And I actually want to get rid of half those lines I just put back there. That is too much. Let's soften that out by taking this brush with water. I'm just going to smudge those out. Much better. See, again, there was what could be considered a mistake. It looked terrible. No big deal. Fix it. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. PJ19 says, I should have an art book. You know, the problem is books take a long time to write. I have a friend who's been working on one of her books, or her newest book coming out, and that is so much work that I just do not, I can't even imagine doing that much work. It's a lot, and there'd be no way for me to do that in addition to this. Somebody else would have to write it for me. Okay, I am going to use the hair dryer, so plug your ears. I need to dry this so I can draw the whale tail. Mara says it sounds better than the buzzing. That buzzing must have been terrible. Oh, I hate having to send stuff back. Okay. What was next? We now have an anti-Conejo account in the group. Oh my gosh. That's kind of awesome. Especially if it isn't Conejo who made that account. Okay, I'm going to be drawing the whale tail in. I have my... This is a General's charcoal pencil, an old one that got stepped on, and just whatever eraser. And I need to find my reference photo. And I believe this reference photo that I'm going to be using came from Pixabay. It was either that or Graphic Stock, I forget where. Okay, I need to make sure that this is completely dry, even though I use the hairdryer on it. If it's a little bit damp, the pencil won't stick well. Let's test. Oh, it's sticking okay. Now, the reason that I go with a white charcoal pencil instead of a regular graphite pencil, yeah, the graphite would show up against the yellow, but it won't erase all the way, and you'll end up with graphite lines all over the place. One of the mistakes I made when I was first painting, or first started with acrylics, a very, very long time ago, is that I would draw out my whole design in graphite and then I would paint over it and think that it was going to cover it up. Those graphite lines always showed through. Now, if I'm painting in oils, it'll get rid of it. It's not a problem with oils. Those, I can use a graphite pencil, but with acrylics, I definitely would recommend go with the General's charcoal white pencil. Victor wants to know what I did to get ready for this painting, any studies. I have a few photos on my monitor over here with different whale tails and some skies. My sky doesn't look anything like the ones I was looking at. I ended up just kind of ignoring them, basically. Okay, so I need to figure out, I want the top of my whale tail, we'll say it's going to go right about here, and I want it to come from here and over to here. What I've got to do is just mark out when I draw things where approximately I want them. I don't want to just start drawing all the detail and then realize, wow, that was way too small, or that was way too big, too far to the left, too far to the right, whatever. I want to just kind of map out where I want my actual drawings to be. So in this case, we'll have the tail coming right around here, and I can, the nice thing is if I don't like something, no big deal, it erases completely. And let's see, I'm now going to go ahead and connect this line. And it curves a little bit here. Bottom is nice and bumpy. This line has to meet, if I curved it around, with the center portion of the tail there. Eric wants to know if I think you can get good results doing this in chalk pastel. Absolutely. I started with chalks and charcoals and all of that when I used to do marine life. So yeah, I can definitely say you can get some really cool results with those. Now, these should be about the same, so I'm going to check there and about there, and I am not even close to long enough on this side. This will be a little shorter, but not as short as I've got. So again, just checking my measurements here. We'll go about there and there. And I'm a little shorter than I want to be. So pull that out a bit more. Now, one of the things when I draw, if you notice, I knew that this side wasn't right. I didn't just erase it and then start over again, because chances are I would have just made the same mistakes again. Instead, I just keep working on that area and redraw over it. And then anywhere that I don't want, I can go back and erase. But I don't want to erase the whole thing and then just keep making the same mistakes. I knew I wasn't big enough, so I just worked around what I had. We'll pull that down a little bit more. And this line would continue right about there. Let's see. I don't like it. I want that whale tail to be higher. I actually don't like any of it. So I'm just going to take all of that off. And anywhere that doesn't erase completely with this eraser, because this is actually kind of a crappy eraser, it'll go back on with water. Or I can go over it with water and it'll take it off. I actually want to raise my tail up quite a bit. I want it to be about what it was. But a lot higher, a little bit larger. I like that a little better. We gotta now fix the curve there. This is why I like these charcoal pencils. I can just erase and keep working and working, and I can't even imagine the mess I would make if I had done this with graphite. Oh, where is my thing here? Curve that around a little more. Okay, we'll go with that. So now I'm going to take another filbert brush. The reason that I go with a filbert over a flat, and the difference between the two, just so you can see, this would be considered a flat where it's cut straight across. This is a filbert where it's rounded. The filberts, you don't have as many harsh start and stop lines when you're painting. The filberts give you a nicer smooth blending. When you use these, as you make your brush stroke and stop, you end up with a straight line that sometimes can be a bit of a pain. So using these filberts makes my life a little easier. Oh, there's the one I'm looking for. So I'm going to start with a dark, dark purple. And to get that purple, I'm mixing my phthalo blue and my magenta, and then I'm going to add some black to it. I mean, I can start with just a flat black if I want, because once I come in, oh, I need a lot of water in that. Once I come on top of it with the other colors, it's not going to stay flat black. Now here, see how I'm getting these little dots? That's what I was talking about before with the dry brushing. That lets me know I need more paint, more water on my brush. Victor wants to see my sketchbook. I don't have a sketchbook right now. I only have ones from a long time ago. Now I mostly just jump into the actual project without sketching. I should probably make one, but I don't have time to, whoops, that was too thick. I don't have time for just sketching much anymore. That bottom line is a little bumpy. That came down way too low. Whoops. Take a little water and I'm going to push that up. This is how you fix a mistake like that. As long as what's underneath is completely dry, you can basically erase something that you were being messy about by taking water on a clean brush and pushing it back. JPC13 Art wants to know if I can recommend some good audiobooks. I actually just listened to 2 that I loved. The first was called The Never Hero. What was it? The Jonathan Tibbs Chronicles or something like that. There's only 1 out so far. It was so good. I so enjoyed that one. The voice acting was amazing. Really, really good book. And then there's another series I'm listening to right now. I think it's called Warrior. Actually, I can let you know because I was just listening to it earlier. It is called... This is the second book. Let me see if I can find... It's the Warrior Chronicles. I just finished the second book. I love these books. Whoops, don't play. Stop playing. Hold on. It's playing. There we go. There's what it looks like. Chosen. It's called the Hero Chronic... No, sorry, wrong one. The Warrior Chronicles by K.F. Breen. I'm only on the second book, and I love it. You know how, I don't know, I've just listened to too many books lately where the characters irritate the crap out of me. And in both those books, those ones I was just talking about, and then The Never Hero, the characters were just so relatable, and it was very entertaining. So those are my 2 that I would recommend right now. So there's my general shape. I now need to make this much more solid. My blue and magenta were too translucent. So I'm going to use more black to go ahead and solidify this. Yeah, and both of those books that I just recommended, the narrators I'm really impressed with. Although one of the narrators, for some reason in the second one, I forget the name of it already, she doesn't say room, she says rum, and it's so weird to me. Rum is something very different than a room. But other than that, they're really good narrators too, which is a big deal with audiobooks. Wolf Girl wants to know what I prefer, oil or acrylic. It depends on what it is. There are certain things that I think oil is just so gorgeous on, but realistically, most of what can be done with oil can be done with acrylic. It's just a little bit harder. I like acrylics though because they are so quick. Like with this, I can let it dry and go on to my next layer right away, which I really wouldn't be able to do with oils in one sitting. Mara Black wants to know what I'm using on my paints right now to stop them from drying. Nothing, just paint and water. You learn to paint fast. The type of canvas you're using will make a big difference too. Certain canvases, it's like they suck up all the moisture out of the paint and it dries really, really fast. Like I've had students that brought Walmart brand canvases to class. That was a problem. I have the hair dryer. Mara says no on my palette as far as what I'm using to keep the paint wet. Nothing. They're fine on their own. If I was using the heavy body paints, that'd dry really quickly. These stay wet for a really long time. JPC13 Art says I should read A Court of Thorns and Roses series. They are the best fantasy books I've ever read, and the main character is an artist. Interesting. I need you to email that to me because I won't remember. Okay, so now we need to start taking this from looking like a weird silhouette into an actual whale tail and giving it some form. So what I'm going to do, and hopefully this is dry all the way, otherwise you'll see what happens when paint is not, is start mixing my lighter colors. So I'm going to go with a little bit of white in with, we'll go with that bluish purple color I was using earlier, and some white, maybe a little bit of magenta so it's more purple. Not light enough. Now see, I'm getting the dry brush marks that I was talking about before. So I'm going to rinse that brush, reload it with more paint and a bit more water. And I'm going to blend that out. So see how it gets rid of those dots? You don't want those dots in there. That's not a good technique in almost any case. There are rare times when it looks good, but they're pretty rare. For the most part, when you're working with acrylics, try to get in the habit of avoiding those dots. And in this case, again, painting inside the lines is hard. In this case, I just needed more water and more paint. I need to pull that shadow down quite a bit more. Again, I'm starting to get those dots, so we'll add some more paint to the brush, and I'll just blend that up. And this paint is a mixture of phthalo blue, my magenta, and a little bit of black. And this guy has a lighter section on his tail, so we'll go ahead and put some of that in here. And while it's white on my reference photo, I don't want to paint that white because that will not look right. So you can see it's just that light purple. And I need to blend this a bit, so I'm going to take a clean brush with a little bit of water. I need a smaller brush to do this with. And I'll just smudge those together. And again, all that's on this brush, it's clean other than it just has the water. A lot of this is going to get covered by the water and the kind of reflection on there, so it doesn't have to be perfectly blended. Lady Star wants to know if I recommend Canson mixed media paper to try different art mediums. It depends on what you're trying to do. I wouldn't use it for acrylic painting. I think it's terrible I think all papers are, I just don't like the results you get with paper and acrylics. I've seen cool work done because I know someone's going to link me, oh, look, this is awesome. Yeah, it's cool, but I just like the results I get from working on acrylics. Or I mean on canvas. It depends on what you're doing. I mean, it's not that it's a terrible paper, but it wouldn't be my first choice for colored pencil, but it could work. It wouldn't be my first choice for markers. I don't know if it would work, actually. I know it wouldn't work for Winsor & Newton pigment markers. So it depends on what it is that you're trying to do. I would use it for graphite, but I'm not too picky about what I use with graphite. So, there's that. So I'm using a little bit of water, actually a decent amount of water, in with this highlight, and I'm going up against that edge. Right now it's kind of outlined with black, which I do not want. I want to get that highlight all the way up. That probably has too much water and paint. Oh well, we'll let it work for us. And then here where it is starting to dry, like it didn't really blend well, I just take a wet clean brush with a little bit of water and smudge it out. Yes, I am using titanium white in the tail. It's not straight titanium white, it's just a little bit mixed in with the other colors for the highlights. We've got to create a shadow under the tail here. Okay. And then come back through with the highlight a bit more. And I need another brush to smudge this with. I'm missing, I know there are questions. Make sure you're tagging it how they're showing you with the Lachri fine art and the highlighting it with the teal like that. It makes it easier for me to see it while I'm painting. I don't have a reference photo, Hosanna, so no, I can't. I mean, I'm using several, but no, it's not on this computer, so I can't show you anyway. But there's no one single reference photo that I'm using. Art by Jacob wants to know if I've done an underwater scene with chalk pastels. I did. That's when I was a teenager. That's what I started with, were pastels, charcoals, all of those. Anything I could get my hands on, basically, and those were fairly inexpensive. I remember getting a lot of those art supplies at a drugstore, of all places. So they weren't quality by any means, but that's what I started with. That and mixing with watercolor. Okay, so I need to start getting what looks like wet or water coming on the tail there. So I'm going to kind of have some highlights, just this shiny look. I'm following that. I'm just going to dab that with my finger. We've got a fair amount of water mixed in with this. If I'm too dark, not a big deal. Just dab that with my finger. Clean that upper edge. I'm going to soften this edge here by adding a little bit of white and pulling that in. There we go. Do I think traditional art sells better than digital art? Well, I mean, it depends on what the buyer is looking for. If they're looking for a original painting, then yeah, because that's, you can't really put an original digital piece on your wall. You can make a print of it, but it's still just a print. Some people, that's fine. Some people want prints, and that's great. It really depends on what the buyer is looking for. So I can't say it's a definite always yes, always no type of things. Okay, this one is a synthetic, no. I think this is a Taklon bristle. Maybe it's a synthetic hog hair liner. I don't know. I can't tell. It's either a semi-damaged Taklon bristle brush, or it is a, yeah, Taklon, or it's a really soft synthetic hog hair. And I don't know. Either would work. So I'm just lining where that highlight is going to go. Cameron wants to know how I do the highlight thing. What do you mean? I'm lining the edge. It's a liner brush, and there's water mixed in with it, and I'm just lightly going over the edge. The other highlight, if you mean the water, the kind of reflection here, it's just the same color that I used for my highlight here, with more water, so that it flowed really smooth to get that look. Now, I am going to have to go along the edge here with that color again, basically the same highlight color. I need to define this a little bit, but only in a few spots. I don't want to outline all the way across. It won't look right. And a lot of this, again, is going to get covered by the water dripping down, but I just want a few highlights here on the edge of the tail, but not straight white. And this is really bumpy on this edge, or on the bottom edge. Wolf Girl wants to know if I've ever tested digital art. Yeah, I do digital art occasionally. I have some on my website. So see, I'm just kind of going along that bottom. And the big thing is just don't just outline straight across. You don't want it to be too uniform. Sarah wants to know if I post my photography online. No, because it's, well, yes and no. It's the stuff that I take for reference photos, and I provide those for Patreon. So they're posted there for Patreon supporters, but that's it. Okay, before I start with the water that's going to come off on the tail, I need to work on the water around here first, because this is behind. When you're painting with acrylics, it's easier to paint whatever is farthest back and work your way forward. So in this case, the color in the sky, then the stars, then the clouds were in front of that, then the water's in front of that, the whale tail, but then the water ripples are going to go in behind the water that's falling off the whale tail. So we've got to back up a bit for that section. And what I'm going to be using is a Taklon bristled filbert again. And let's see. I'm going to start taking some white. I'll do this in a few colors probably. But let's do white with a little yellow and see how that looks. And I'm just following those ripples that I was doing earlier. I'm going to go around the tail here. I am not pushing very hard with this brush. That's how I'm getting the really thin line with such a large brush. The amount of pressure that you add to a brush will make all the difference in the world. I remember back when I first started learning to use a liner brush, I didn't think it was even possible to get thin lines with the liner brush, because, you know, if I can't do it, it must not be possible. The thoughts of a teenager. But it really, the problem was I was using the wrong amount of pressure. I was pushing too hard. That's why I couldn't get the detail with it. And I didn't have enough water mixed in with my paint too. That wasn't helping matters. Okay, I'm going to add another color for the ripples. Noah says, when painting, when should I use an underpainting? I almost always do an underpainting of some sort or another. I mean, everything, even with oil, there's an underpainting of some sort. My base layers would be another word that I would use for it. I mean, anytime you're painting and you're working in layers, your first few layers would be considered your underpainting. Especially if you're just like blocking things in. I'm using a darker bluish purple here. I'm just following those curves that I already have. Now I am going to come through with some highlights with more of the white and the yellow with thicker sections here. Jetstream wants to know if I have a wooden art palette. No, those I don't like for oil or acrylic. I know what you're talking about, those big round ones with the holes in it, I believe. No, they soak up, well, okay, acrylic paint anyway. I like something like this that is enclosed where I can use a lot of water and it's not going to run over the edge. We mix too much water, the paint ends up being a bit too thin, and it can make a huge, huge mess on the palette. So those flat palettes I don't like for acrylic paint at all. And even for oil paint, the only two ways I would go for oil, I actually use something similar to this. It's flat, but it's also got foil wrapped in it. Glass is another way to go. You can make your own palette. I know Jason Morgan, I think, has a video showing you how to make your own glass palette, if you look him up. But I don't like the wood palettes at all. They're just too much of a pain to clean for me. Noah wants to know where the Murloc painting is. I still haven't started it yet. Okay, I need a lighter color than what I had. That was too dark. That's still way too dark. Now, if you get to a point where your paintbrush, you're like, wow, that is too yellow, don't just keep adding more and more white. You'll end up with a big pot of the wrong color. Instead, I'm going to rinse my brush out and start fresh. I'm going to start with white and slowly add a little bit more yellow. And that happens all the time. Let's say you're trying to mix purple and you've got a lot of blue in it, but not enough red. If you just keep mixing more and more red into the same pot, chances are it's not going to, you're just going to have so much of the wrong color. Start again if you need to. Rinse your brush and reload it. Start over again. I need more water on that brush. Noah wants to know if I've heard back from the beanbag chair. No, I have not actually. I think they gave up on me. Lighten some of this up, and I'll have to glaze some of this. I'm not going to leave it this light, but I need to get it light in order for it to show up with what I'm trying to do here. So it almost is going to look like small waves in with the water, because I don't want it perfectly glassy smooth. Now here again, I'm getting the dry brush look. I'm not sure if this camera is good enough to pick that up or not. So I'm going to add more water so that I can smooth that out. These little sections, they're just creating the look of water ripples. They don't want to go too crazy. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but I'm constantly squinting. Like, okay, do I need more? What area is too dark? What area is too light? You can also just get up and back away from your canvas if you're not lazy like me. There is no hidden face in the clouds, Noah. I see what you're trying to do here. It doesn't exist. Yvette wants to know how the weather is in Texas. It's freezing where I'm. It's freezing here today, too. I think, actually, let's see what it is right now. My studio assistants are not happy about going outside to go to the bathroom right now. It is 36 right now, so it's not too bad, but it's going to be a lot colder over the next couple of days. I am not a cold weather fan, and neither are my studio assistants. So I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and go right over some of the highlights here. Some of the highlights I'll switch more to magenta. If I would have used straight yellow to start with, yellow's too translucent, it wouldn't have shown up. And actually that needs to dry a little. I'm starting to lift the paint, so I'll let that set for just a second. Kitty Cat's Attack wants to know what kind of brush I use to do my clouds. In this case, I used a filbert, a tack-on bristled filbert. This is the Master's Touch. It's just the generic Hobby Lobby one. Really, any tack-on bristled filbert is going to work for you. This one is a number 4. Actually, I'm going to take the hairdryer to this. Johanna wants to know if there is any reason her oil paints are drying out too quickly. I'm using Gamblin and linseed oil and Gambol. I think you mean Gamsol? I don't know. What do you mean by, what do you consider too quickly? Do you mean in the tube, on the canvas, on your palette? I need a little bit more information for that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so that's dry now, so I can go back to glazing a little bit more with the yellow. It was starting to lift some of the paint off, so that wasn't working for me. I'm going to switch over to the magenta. Oops, I got some white on that brush, so I need to rinse it out. When you glaze, you want to avoid white unless you're using a transparent mixing white, because the white is going to create fog. Great if fog is the look you're going for, but if you're just trying to tint the color like I'm doing here, that would not be an ideal choice. So I need to make sure there's no white on my brush. White is too opaque. Just want to tint this color. Okay. No one wants to know if I consider myself black-haired or blonde. I'm naturally blonde, so I don't know, both. I mean, right now it's colored both, but I don't know. On my license, I think I had to put blonde. Because, yeah. Sue Wood says, minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit with wind chill. Wow. I don't want to live where you live. I don't like the cold at all. Okay, so I need to make this in at least 2 layers. I need a darker color for the base portion of the water, and I'm going to go with a purple color or a kind of a magenta color for the water that's pouring off the whale's tail, and then I will go with highlights of white. But I don't want to just jump into white because you can't go anywhere from there. I mean, you're already as light as it's going to go. So what I will do on this one is kind of a magenta orange type color. And just kind of sketch in where the water is falling off the whale's tail. There's little squiggles here and there. So you can see now why it was important that I did those water ripples there first before I really got into this. Put some down here because that's where it's going to be kind of hitting the water. And we will go to a darker color here. I'm going to use a little bit of that darker color, just touch here and there. One of the big things I had to learn when painting like this or painting with acrylics is it's not an issue of just do everything. I would look at a highlight like with the water splashing and go, okay, I just need white. It doesn't look natural, and I couldn't understand why that wasn't working. So here, doing this in layers like this will make a big, big difference in your work. And now we'll go with this guy. So now I'm going with, actually I'll do a very light magenta. I'm going to add a tint of that pink in with that. And start dabbing and dotting where this is falling. Some of it will be on the tail a little bit more and falling down. Okay, now I can switch to the white. How long have I been an artist as a job? About 20 years now. I'm going to take a picture and show you. Yeah, I will. And actually, the picture that I post, I'll probably post one over on Instagram tomorrow and Facebook so that you guys can see a real photo of what this looks like, because I know the exposure is wrong in the video. It's like the colors are a little bit bold, more bright or bold than what I have. So I'm going to basically create the rest of this by dotting dotting sections. It's not just lines, but dots that are going to connect. But that gives me that just kind of sea foamy, bumpy, I'm making up words now, I'm tired. So that's what, well, I make up words when I'm not tired, so I can't really use that excuse. So you can see it kind of comes in rows or in streams. It's not just solid wall of polka dots. Which type market's better, realism or surrealism? I know you do both. It depends on who you're it all comes down to who you're selling to. There are people who are going to want realism, and some will prefer surrealism, some will prefer abstract. It just depends on the buyer and getting it in front of the right buyer. It really isn't so much an issue of this is going to sell for you and this one won't. For me, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of even. I sell both. Realism might be a little bit more, but that just comes down to who I was putting the artwork in front of. Kaneho's being nice again, and it's really weirding me out. Now I have to assume the noises I keep hearing outside are actually the zombies. Now, it's important that I'm not just doing polka dots. See how I'm kind of connecting and lining a lot of these? I need variation. So we have the water where it's hitting. We'll start creating some of those ripples now. And see, I'm kind of dabbing and keeping almost a shaky hand like I had a lot of caffeine. Which I did not, by the way. It's sad. I need some coffee. Mara wants to know if I've seen orcas in the wild. No, I have not. But my dream is to move to the San Juan Islands in Washington, where I would get to see them all the time. I'd say retirement goals, but I don't actually have any plans to retire. So, you know, just later in life goals, I guess. Yvette said that it's because of her that Kaneho is being nice. I know, but it weirds us out when he's nice. Noah says, how do you respond when somebody questions your legitimacy as an artist because you didn't go to art school? Like, how did you learn the techniques properly without a teacher? I show them my work. Usually that does it. As soon as somebody sees my work, they don't question me anymore. I had a lady, funny art story. I was in an art guild in California. Can't remember the name of the guild anymore, but there was an older lady who I sat next to. It was one of my first times there. And I was probably 24, 25, I don't know, 28 at the time, something like that. I was in my 20s. And I sat down and I didn't know anyone there. I was just, you know, there to watch the demonstration. I forget what the demonstrator was now. But the lady started talking to me on the break. And she was asking what I did, what style of work I worked in, and she wanted to know where I studied. And I said I did not. I am self-taught. I got a lecture for the next 10 minutes, like the rest of the break. This lady lectured me on basically if you did not go to art school, your work is crap, you need to take lessons, or even if it wasn't that I went to art school, that I had to take lessons. It was very important. She's a teacher and she knows, and I'm thinking, I'm a teacher too. I've been teaching art classes for a very long time at this point. So it was kind of weird. I mean, and I didn't say anything. I'm like, she may be amazing. I don't know. Maybe she's like super, super amazing and she has every right to say the things she's saying to me. So I just kind of nodded and was like, okay, just smiled, whatever. And at the end of the class, they had brought work in, or some of the members had brought in their work to share. And so at the end, when they showed hers, it was a seascape. Now, again, this is during the time that this was my wow, that didn't come out right. Specialization was marine life and seascapes. And she stood up and it was just like, whoa, that's beginner. That is an absolute beginner seascape. I'm surprised that this is the lady who lectured me so heavily. I mean, this woman had just gone on and on. I mean, it was at least 10 minutes of being lectured. So what was really funny was another few weeks go by and they had us bring, a bunch of us brought in work to be critiqued, and I had brought mine in, and mine was the only one that really didn't get, she didn't have much to say about mine. Basically, she mostly talked about why mine was good, what worked, and that I had such a good understanding of contrast and all that stuff. It was a black and white angel painting, and everyone was just like amazed because everyone else had kind of gotten ripped apart. And so they asked the artist of that piece to stand up, and when I did, you should have seen the look on the lady's face who had lectured me the week before, the 2 weeks before, about how horrible of an artist I had to be if I didn't go to school. So it was kind of funny. Ron says the white completely transforms the water coming off the tail. It does. It looks like absolute crap until you get to these last stages. It makes such a big, big difference. And this water that I'm doing here, I'm going to have to tone down. I will put a glaze over because it shouldn't be this bright, but I need something light. So we'll do it in white, and then I will glaze another color over it. And anywhere that gets too harsh, you don't have to freak out about it. Just stick your finger in it, dab it off. I mean, acrylics, they're non-toxic. It doesn't matter if it gets on your hands. Now, part of me wants to go through and brighten up the highlights on my clouds, but that would take away from the subject here. So I'm really not going to. I think I'm just going to leave those how they are and just keep working on the whale tail itself. No, I'm going to add this highlight, but I'm going to come through and glaze another color over that so it would be reflecting the sunset, not just being white right here. But first, I need it to be white. Wolf Girl says, you have another job that art, right? What is it? Huh? No, I mean, making videos. I'm a full-time artist. I've been a full-time artist since, I'm going to say 2002, 2003, 2003, something like that. I don't remember. That's all I've done is art. Teaching, I mean, I teach art, or I used to. But now just painting and making videos and tutorials. I don't have time for anything else. Warrior Potato on a Unicorn, whose name is the best, says, how was your trip to hell, aka IKEA? It wasn't bad. Luckily, I was surprised there were that many people there on a Friday during the middle of the day, but it was worse than I expected as far as that goes. But I didn't have to walk through the store, so it wasn't terrible, and I got what I needed, and it was all on sale, so it was worth waiting in line, and my shelf is all put together, and I'm happy now. There's so much stuff I love from IKEA, but oh, those people. There's so many. And screaming children. Lots of those usually. And I can't blame the children. I mean, who wants to be in IKEA for the next 8 hours? I'm just adding some highlights here. I've got a bit of water mixed in with this. I'm going to use the same brush. This is a flat Taklon bristled brush. And I'm going to pull out a few more of these highlights. I almost went too dark, I think, when I came through with the glaze. So I'm going to leave some of this with being really light. If you guys haven't already, check out our moderators' channels. They both are artists. One works primarily with painting, the other with wood burning, and they're awesome. And I've got links to both of them in the video description. But definitely check out Valerie and Dead Jester. They've got some awesome artwork, so you should all go check those out. And thank you guys, the moderators, too, for helping me with this. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. I mean, who else would keep Dead under, or not Dead, he's actually well behaved. Who else would keep Conejo under control? So here, I'm just adding these little highlights, little bits of white on top of where I glazed. Not everything. Those glazes that I did earlier where I tinted everything, I don't want all of that. I just want a bit here and there. It makes it look a little bit shinier, more sparkly. Again, pulling out more highlights here. I'm just going to keep layering and messing with this until it looks pretty much how I want, or we run out of time. Either way. Noah says a friend was just offered $500 for their piece. It's the first they have ever sold. Should they accept it? What if she can't stay at that price? She can't lower prices, right? Well, she didn't advertise it. Someone offered it, so I think that's okay. I don't see that as being a huge deal. I think it's a bigger deal if she had originally started with her prices on her website, you know, listing things at $500 and then had to lower it. So I think I mean, if that's what somebody wants to pay for the painting, then go for it. Is my work... sorry, my eyes are getting really blurry from staring at this canvas for so long, so I'm having a hard time reading this now. Is your work or some of it personal to you, especially with surrealism, seems to have more meaning? Some of it is. Usually it really comes down to just wanting to paint something that's pretty. I like pretty things, so that's more often than not all the meaning is. Which is not what buyers want to hear. Buyers are generally going to want to hear a more interesting story. And I think as artists, that's something that we have to kind of train ourselves. And that's here's a marketing tip for you. Train yourself to talk about your art. I'm terrible at it. I'm absolutely terrible. I know it's a massive failing on mine. By the way, this is just that highlighted color I used earlier. I'm adding more and just following the curve of the tail. But I am really bad at describing things. I kind of feel silly because I know my main goal is just to make something pretty. I don't have, any great statements that I'm trying to make in most cases. I just like pretty things. So, but buyers like to hear more meaning, and like galleries and such will want more meaning in your work. So I think getting used to talking about it and coming up with symbolism and such is a good thing, a good habit to start getting into. And especially on your website, if you can talk about your work and talk about the meaning and all of that, that really interests people. And I think an easy kind of cop-out is, I want the viewer to decide what it means to them. Yeah, you can say that, but that's really not what most are looking for. Most are looking for you to tell them what it means. I'm going to come through with some of the darker blue here. Just continue with my ripples. And this is the stage. It's just towards the end. I'm just going to pick little things that I can do to improve on it. Little bits here and there. Getting those dry brush marks so that, again, I need to reload my brush, get more water and paint on it. I'm going to pull a little bit of that blue into the tail now as a bit sort of a reflection. That is the phthalo blue. I'm pulling this down. This is the shadow created by the tail here coming forward. Just letting that blue fall through. Just pull that out just a little there. I'm going to take an orange-yellow mixture, a little bit of water. Both the orange and the yellow are very translucent. So this is why I had, in order to get this highlight here, why I needed white first is if I just painted the orange and the yellow mixture over the area that I'm trying to do, it wouldn't have shown up. So by painting white, I can now take this guy and create that yellow bit there. I want to fade that out into, I think I'll go straight to magenta from there. There we go, a little bit of magenta before it hits the blue. Vessi says, I'm new to watching Lisa's live streams and I'm very confused about this Conejo stuff. Conejo is a guy who's actually a very nice guy when he's not trolling everyone. He's been around watching my videos for years. I've known him for a really long time through YouTube, and he likes to troll everybody, but he grows on you, kind of like fungus, and you'll get used to him and eventually like him too. But he will seem like an absolute jerk when you first see his comments. Just know I'd say he's kidding, but he's partially probably not. But he's our friendly neighborhood troll, basically. I want to pull this out just a little bit more with the white. I've got a little bit of yellow mixed in with it. Not too much. I can just play around with adding little sparkles where I want it. I'm going to add some to the water. Just little dots here and there. Again, making it look sparkly. Little shiny. Little clusters. I don't want to just put polka dots everywhere. Notice that I'm just kind of making these clumps and clusters of these dots. Where did the name Lachri come from? It's a combination of my name and my sister's names. Originally just one sister, but then I found out I had another sister whose name actually fits in with it, so I can actually say plural. Both sisters' names fit in with it. Look what a difference these little dots. It just makes everything look so pretty and sparkly. Noah said to please stop bullying Conejo. Wow, Conejo, you have people, you have your own fan base of, how did you manage that acting like a troll? That is impressive. And I say troll in the most loving way. because we actually do like Conejo. Except when he's being nice, it freaks everyone out. Hoofbeat says, if you were going to sell this painting, how much would you sell it for? I don't know. I need to look up what my prices are. But this one, I probably wouldn't go quite as high as what I would another painting this size, just because this is a 2-hour project. It's not one that I'm going to put tons of work into. And while normally I don't charge based on, I charge based on size, not on amount of time. Something like this that I really did not put a lot of time into, it's just kind of a quick one, that I would... I don't know. I don't remember what my price list is for 8x10s. I don't think I have any 8x10s listed on my website for sale. I totally forget what my list is, and I'm going to be changing those, so I don't know. I'll probably use this painting as a giveaway. Actually, I think I will do that tonight. If you guys head over to my Facebook page, lachri.com/lachri.fine.art, which is the stupidest username I could have possibly come up with because it's too long. I used the Lachri one for my personal one. Bad move. But anyway, I'll make this one available for a giveaway, and I will have that up later tonight. So head over there and you can enter to win. Again, just a few of these sparkles, these little bits that stand out more. Plus, I still have 13 minutes, so, you know, may as well kill time with polka dots that aren't polka dots. Now, one thing I can do is make a darker mixture here. Whoops. Making a muddy mixture is what I'm making. And mix this in with the white so that it's not just straight white. Like I was saying earlier about using 2 colors for things, 2 or 3 colors, this would be another case where having that additional color will make it look better. I'm just going kind of under the white that I put on the water. It's subtle. It doesn't make a huge difference when you look at it, but when it all comes together, it makes it look much better. Mara wants to know if I'm going to varnish this. Yes, but off screen, because I'm going to put a spray varnish first, and then I will use my Liquitex to paint, high gloss varnish to paint over it. And if any of you are unfamiliar with how to glaze or how to varnish a painting, if you look up Lachri and varnish acrylics, I do have a video showing you exactly how I do that. I'm going to glaze a little bit of magenta here. Noah wants me to paint Conejo as a demonstration. I think I'm going to pass on that. I think it would make his head too big. Sue Woods, this is a great question, says, can you put it on Fine Art America and they could make prints bigger in bigger sizes? The problem is I generally won't make prints much larger, if larger at all, than what the original is, because as you blow it up, it looks worse and worse and worse. Even if I use my really good camera or I scan at really high DPI, it loses detail. You can't take something small and make it bigger and make it look as good as the smaller version did. So no, that doesn't really work out very well. Taking a little bit of a glaze here. And they seem to have lost all the water falling off of the tail on this area. I overdid the glaze, so let's go ahead and pull some of this back out. I needed it darker, but not gone. There we go. Just that hint of water falling again on the tail. I overdid the glaze there. Again, I'll go ahead and put, oh, going too heavy on that. I will add, head over tonight. The link to Facebook is in the video description. If you want to head over there, this is pretty much done. I need to sign it. But if you head over there, I'll have a better photo of this and you can enter to win. I will have the giveaway start tonight. I'll start taking entries tonight and it will end on next Wednesday and I'll announce who that winner is on the live stream next Wednesday as well as put the notification on Facebook. So make sure to head over there. Give me about an hour before I have the giveaway up because I have to go through all the rules and you have to post certain things and I have to find a copy of all of that before I post it. But yeah, this is pretty much it. Oh, I can sign it. Now here's a tip for those of you who have a hard time signing your names. Take that white charcoal pencil, sign it with that first. Well, this is the first time writing 2017 on a painting. So there's my signature. With that charcoal pencil, now I can take a liner brush and sign it with that. And it'll be much, much easier for me to control. I'd say the first 10 years of painting, that's how I had to sign my name. I could not depend on just going straight with the liner brush. But with the liner, this is a really awkward angle to do this in. I'm going to do this in sections. Lift the brush, next curve, lift the brush. It's not like writing with a pen where you can just write it all in one go. I have to do this in these little clumps. Oops, that A did not come out right, but whatever. And then what I'll do when this dries completely, I will just erase whatever bits of the charcoal pencil that showed through. Wow, this is a horrible angle to sign. Normally I sign where it's a little bit more flat. I've got to come back there with the blue and fix where that got all screwed up. I'm a pro. I can't even sign my name. That paint has too much water in it now. Watch me make a mess just trying to sign my own name. Impressive, Lisa. There we go. We're calling that good. And then when that dries, I'll let it dry for a good half an hour or so. I've made this mistake so many times where I'm like, oh, it's dry to the touch. And I'll take an eraser to it and it just smears the whole signature. I'll let that dry for like a half an hour before I erase that charcoal mark. But yeah, that's it. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you to the moderators, Valerie and Dead, or Joseph Finjam, depending on which name he prefers. I honestly don't know. I should probably find out. Check out their channels. The links are in the video description. And then head over to Facebook, which is also in the video description, where I will be posting this as a giveaway later tonight. Yeah, that's about it. So I will go ahead and answer a few questions. We've got a few minutes left. So if you guys have some questions, let's see. JPC13 Art says, the lighting in my videos are not good. I use natural daylight and the light flickers a lot. What do I do to get better lighting? That happens. I mean, as the sun changes, clouds go overhead, you're going to have the light changing a lot. So what I do, I paint at night anyway, but I use OT lights, which are a natural daylight bulb, and those work really well. But I did have to find video cameras that worked well in low light. So actually I can stop recording that now. But they're both the cameras that I've used for my videos are known for being pretty good for low light. So that's what I did. Eddie wants to know how much I would charge for a painting. I can't say for his own painting. I can't really say by that because I don't know what kind of a fan base you have. This isn't just, okay, I can look at this painting and know, oh, that's worth $500. There's no way to know for sure without knowing what kind of fan base you have already built up, what kind of a name you have for yourself already, because there's so many factors involved. But I do have a video. If you check out, do a search for Lachri and pricing your art, I have a video that will go over some tips on coming up with your own prices. Noah, there's no face in the clouds. I refuse to even see a face in the clouds. Mike says, did you create multiple signatures before deciding on one? I don't sign my art since I need to come up with a better signature. You definitely need to sign your art. For me, it's always been Lachri, and the one thing that changed, and this is kind of blurry because I need to erase the charcoal marks, but I've got a whale tail that I add to, or it could be a dolphin tail. I add that to any of my marine life paintings, whereas my other paintings don't include that part. But it's pretty much been the same all these years. I have the Lachri, I have the year, and then the Trinity symbol. Those all, it's just been that way for a long, long time. I think for a while I may have just used Lachri without the date and the Trinity symbol, but over the time those started being incorporated. So no, I didn't change mine that much. As a teenager, when I started, I used to just sign Lisa, but that's about it for the changes for me. Hoofbeat says, have you ever had a problem with people making the art world a competition? Do you see it as a competition? Sometimes it feels like all we do is try to outdo someone. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't see it as a competition. I don't know why I'm looking over there. You guys are over here. I don't see it as a competition myself. I see it as learning to brand myself better, competing against myself, basically. There's no, someone had sent in a question not long ago, and he felt that, or he had left at the bottom, he said, I've contacted tons of artists from Instagram and all these artists, and no one's getting back to me to answer this question because I think that they look at it as a competition, like I'm competition for them, so they don't want to answer my question. That's probably not the case. More likely than not, they're busy and they just get too many emails to get to. I know that happens to me a lot. But yes, some people turn it into a full competitive thing, but it doesn't need to be. And not everybody handles it that way. There are plenty of people to buy work. It's not like I'm necessarily competing with any one of you to sell artwork from. It's about selling yourself, learning to market yourself better, not so much competing with somebody else. I mean, yes, you are competing with other people in that you have to make yourself stand out. So I guess there's that, but it's not necessarily about the art either. It's about making yourself as an artist stand out. So how's that for a random ramble of me just thinking out loud? Phyllis says, what type of frame or colored frame would you use for this? I would use an open frame. Do I have any 8x10s? I can actually show you how this will work. 1 second. Let me see if I have any 8x10s down here. I think I do. Okay, so you want to use an 8x10 open frame. Or an open frame, I should say. This one happens to be an 8x10. I'm not going to pull the edges off of this because I don't want to damage it. But what it is, it's open. There's no glass. You can see the back there. It has the ridges. The canvas is going to sit right up against there. So it will just slide right in. And excuse me while I slide this in here. The plastic is really tight on this one area. I may have to remove it to get it to go in there. Let's try going from the opposite direction. Otherwise, I will have to pull the scissors out. Yep, scissors. Where are the scissors? They were sitting right there. Oh, they're out of reach. Anyway, what will happen, it's not fitting in because I need to remove the plastic, but it will sit in like this. And what color just depends on what you want. I mean, you can see this frame look, I actually really like how this frame looks with this one. That gold works, which I'm not typically, it's not really gold. It's more of a champagne color. I'm not typically a gold type color person, but I do like that one pretty well. You could probably get away with black. You could get away with a few things. What you would want to do is take it with you when you go to like Michael's, Hobby Lobby, wherever sells frames. Take it with you and try it on because they have 8x10 is such a common size. They're gonna have tons of frames for you to choose from, and they will install it for you right there. As you can see, there's nothing on the back to keep this in. You're gonna need these little clips that they'll put in, and I know Hobby Lobby only charges like $2 or $1.50 or something like that to install it for you. It is so much easier than trying to do yourself. Take the painting with you and try it on with a black frame, with the brown frame. See what looks best. So yeah, that's pretty much what I would do there. But that frame, that champagne color, I definitely like with this one. White would actually probably be pretty too. Even black would work. Where do I get my open frames? I usually just buy a normal frame and remove the glass since open frames are more expensive for some reasons. I usually go to Hobby Lobby. They have they're big and pretty, and some are very expensive, but you like every other week they're 50% off. And that's my normal place to go. You just have to watch because so often they're damaged. They have so many damaged, like really damaged frames on their shelves. So just pick through that. And sometimes it's easy enough just to touch up. You can use acrylic paint to fix something, like if it's a black frame, you can easily fix that if it's chipped. But watch, because some of their really big, nice wood looking frames, they're not actually wood, it's a type of resin in most cases, they chip badly. So just check for that when you buy them. But that's where I usually get them, and they're not too terribly expensive. I've got a request for a live stream in Inktense. Yes, I will definitely do one of those in the future. And yeah, you can remove the glass in a regular frame. That works too. That is definitely also an option. Wolf Girl wants me to post the winner on Facebook. I will. It will be next Wednesday is when I will announce who the winner is. Any recommended online stores? My absolute favorite is Dick Blick. I love their customer service when I screw up my order. So definitely, I'm a huge fan of them. And Jerry's is the other place that I generally buy from. Occasionally I get stuff from Amazon, but not too often. Sometimes the price is worth buying from Amazon, but always check, like I always link my Amazon affiliate links in the video description. And while technically this makes me the worst salesperson in the world, I do want you guys to know, double check prices everywhere, because it may be a lot cheaper for you to get it from Dick Blick. A lot of it too will have to do with how big of an order you're placing. If it's a big enough order that you're going to get free shipping, then probably Dick Blick or Jerry's would be the better place to buy. I've got Noah wanting the live stream for the Murloc when I paint him. I'll probably end up live streaming parts of him. Let's see. We've got 1 minute to go. Mara says. Kaneho says. Mara says, how are you going to decide a winner? I use random.org. So basically what happens is everybody will leave a comment on that Facebook entry or Facebook post. And I'll use random.org because Facebook will tell me how many entries there are. And whatever number that is, I just count through. And the funny thing is, Facebook will change whose location is where. But the point is, the winner is still totally random. So that's how I choose. We've got Kineho again, trying to convince us that he should be a mod, which is hilarious. Let's see, we've got, Melissa says, I've just started using polychromos, but I'm having a hard time getting a solid color, even though I've applied many layers. Is it because my paper is too textured? It definitely could be. If you mean the solid color, like the white is showing through too much, then yeah, your paper may be too textured. And the way that you blend will make a big difference. With me, I just apply a lot of layers and then use my paint thinner and it will kind of dissolve it. But the paper that I'm using is fairly smooth. I use either Stonehenge, the one in individual sheets, not the one sold in the pad. The pad is too smooth. But the individual sheets, the large sheets of Stonehenge, I like, but only with the paint thinner. I don't like polychromos without paint thinner. And the Fabriano Artistico Extra White Hot Press 140-pound watercolor paper. I like that one a lot, and I've really been liking the Canson Me Tints. Their papers work really well too with colored pencil. And that one has a bit more tooth than the other papers that I use. I've got a question. What if you don't have a Facebook? It's free to make. Make just an account to enter with. That's just how I do the giveaways. So I apologize if you are anti-Facebook, but that's where that will be located. Christina says, maybe let Kaneho be a mod on April Fool's Day as a one-day special takeover. No, because it actually gives him access to my account I don't want him to have. So that's just a little scary. I don't think that can happen. Mara Black wants to know if the baby chicken liked my Christmas tree. I didn't have a Christmas tree. I do a Christmas wreath over my mantle, or not Christmas wreath, but a Christmas garland over my mantle. So he did not have access to that. Let's see. I think that's about it for tonight. Mozart Studio wants to know if I've ever tried Redbubble. I have not personally. I use Fine Art America just because I don't see any need to be on every single print place out there, and Fine Art America has everything I need, so I just stick with that one myself. Do I have any videos on how to draw feathers in birds in graphite? I had a flamingo video recently go up, and that one was in graphite. I've got a eagle owl, I believe it was, that is also in graphite. So if you look up, if you go to my YouTube page, the front page, youtube.com/Lachri, if you scroll down, there should be a section just for graphite, and you can scroll through that and see some birds that I've got. Sue Woods wants to know where my baby chicken is now. He is in the other room in his cage and very not happy about it. He just gets so upset when we put him in his cage where he can't get to us. He's actually broken off every single one of his tail feathers from his little tantrums where he's flopping around trying to get out. And it's a huge, nice cage. But he has his little, we call him drama chicken when he does that. He just does not want to be away from us. And he might be a little bit too attached to us, but he's so cute. I don't have to go in the other room. It would take me a few minutes to go get the baby chicken. Any ideas on promoting surreal work, target audience? Well, just start posting about it and if you use on Instagram, you've got, do hashtag surreal art or surreal painting, surreal anything, use the word surreal in that. That can be a way. If there are groups of surreal artists out there, or if you can find a surreal artist that you like, where are they marketing to? Where are they selling to? For any artist, getting involved on YouTube is a big deal. I mean, that is a great way to get in front of people. So making videos of your artwork, that is one of the best ways, I think, to market yourself. And of course, have a decent website. So many artists think that you don't need to have a website because, I can sell through Facebook or social media. You don't have control of that. Yeah, and buyers, honestly, are not going to take you that seriously if you don't have a website. You need a website. There are rare cases where somebody does well without one. But if you want to be taken seriously, you're trying to build a business, get your art website up and make it nice. Look at somebody's website that looks good. Like not just, it's a website that was built in 1992, which is funny because, that before. Anyway, before people were really putting websites together much. But anyway, you don't want a website that looks like it's so out of date. You want something that looks new and looks nice. I love WordPress websites. They've got great themes. Strongly recommend it. But get yourself a website. If you really want people to take you seriously, you've got to start putting that together. So that's going to be a huge tip for you. Is April Fool's actually on a Wednesday? That would be terrible. We may just have to make one of our real mods, make them make a fake account that says Conejo to mess with everyone, because I don't think we want Conejo being a mod. He's actually made a hashtag Conejo for mod. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because my husband will be home soon with dinner because, yay, Chipotle leftovers. Well, they're not really leftovers because I haven't eaten them yet, but, he bought it earlier and I have a veggie bowl coming. So thank you guys again for joining me. Make sure you check out the mods websites. Their links to both of their, or not websites, but their YouTube channels here. Both of their art channels are here on YouTube. Links in the video description. One is for wood burning. One does a lot of painting. And yeah, I think we're done for now. So thank you again so much for joining. Head over to Facebook where shortly I will have that giveaway up. So you'll be able to enter there. Night, guys.